Hi, this presentation is going to walk through how healthcare organizations can leverage the Webform module for Drupal 8. My name is Jake Rockwitz. I'm known as Jay Rockwitz on the web. I'm a Drupal developer and software architect. I built and maintain the Webform module for Drupal 8. I also helped build and maintain the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer website. They were one of the earliest adopters of Drupal 8, and a lot of work I did for them led me to become the maintainer of the Webform module for Drupal 8. And very few people in the Drupal community know that the Webform module for Drupal 8 originated from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer's cancer prediction tools. And these tools allow patients and clinicians to go and enter in lab results, biographical data, and get treatment outcomes. And the best way to show it to you is to give you a little demo. And I'm on the most complex nomogram, is what we're technically calling them, where patients can go in and enter, what therapies they've received, their age, their year, their gender, and this nice little feature at the bottom will automatically fill it out. This is what inspired me to add this to the Webform module, and it populates the form with reasonable defaults, and then you get a results page, which actually will give you your potential outcomes. These are all made up, that's why there's a warning up here, and you go through, and these are multiple calculations being performed at once, and I think you just get the point. Like, the Webform module can do this. This was built in custom code, but this level of functionality that I had to build for Sloan Kettering inspired me to really build a flexible form builder that can accomplish something at this level. I'm going to go back, and we should really talk about some Webform basics. So the Webform module is a powerful and flexible open source form builder and submission manager for Drupal 8. It provides all the features expected from an enterprise proprietary form builder, combined with the flexibility and openness of Drupal. The use case is you build a form or copy a template, publish the form as a page note or blog, collect some submissions, send out confirmations and notifications as emails, review those results, then you might distribute them as a CSV, which you could download, or remote post them to a third-party server like a CRM. And it really breaks down to these three steps: build a form, collect the data, and distribute the data. I'm going to give a demo of some of the basics, and we're going to close this tab and go to a clean install. I'm going to close these messages. This is all the forms that are available. I'm going to use the default contact form, which people are generally familiar with this. I'm going to switch over to the form builder, and I'm going to add a company to this contact form. I'm going to use a text field. I'm going to enter in company. Nothing else is really required here. You get a lot of settings that you can adjust, but for now, I'm just going to hit save. Show you that the company's been added. And a slight mistake where we want to move it below your name and change it to say your company maker required. Let's switch back over to the form builder. Instead of doing it in the UI where you could drag it up, I'm going to go to this source tab. And this is a developer specific feature, but it's very powerful. It lets them see the back-end source code behind a form and edit it all at once. Makes it possible for you to update all the labels of a form right here. And right now I'm just copying one property required and changing the label here. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to switch over to the test tab, which I just kind of showed you how it works in the nomograms, where it just auto-populates the form. I'm going to hit send. And we've just gone through the process of building a form, and we've collected the data. And I'm going to show you that data. Here's that one submission. Click through. Emails went out. We didn't get to see them, but I can actually give you a preview of them by going to the resend tab, which just lets you see the emails that were sent, and you can resend them here. Now that we've talked about those emails going out, let's look at those results. How do we get those results out of here? Go to the download tab. There's multiple formats. I'm going to use an HTML table, which can be opened in Excel, but we're not going to do that right now. I'm not going to tweak any of these default settings. I'm just going to show you the general layout. I'm going to hit download, and you get this HTML table that you can go stylize, open in Excel or Google Sheets. I'm going to click back. That is a pretty decent demo of all the functionality. What we want to talk about is really healthcare concerns related to just forms and in general. And I think the three big digital concerns for healthcare are accessibility, privacy, and security. You want your site to work for people with disabilities, you want to protect your patient's information, and tied to privacy is you want to prevent malicious users from accessing information. They're similar, but I think it's important to break them up because there's different approaches to handling each one of those, privacy and security. But we'll start with accessibility. And I like this quote from Dries, which just basically emphasizes that the Drupal community cares about accessibility. We are focused on it. It is a top priority in all the code we write and all the user experiences we provide users within Drupal core and in Contrib. And the Webform module strives to be the most accessible form builder on the market. And Webform module follows Drupal's best practices. The generated forms are accessible. And this is a unique thing to the Webform module. The form builder is accessible. People with disabilities that might need keyboard shortcuts or proper labels for screen readers can build a form. It just shows the level of commitment. There are use cases where people might need that. They might need to just go edit some labels. And then we also are performing ongoing accessibility self-audits. So we're reviewing with each release, generating some reports on making sure that the forms are accessible and trying to prevent regressions where we might break some accessibility issue. And is a demo of the form builder with an add-on module that's included in the Webform module that's enabled, called the Webform shortcut module, which provides those shortcuts, those keyboard shortcuts to the form builder, which just makes it easier if someone's trying to use a keyboard to build a form. And I use them personally sometimes to just add elements. And then the self-audit is just a Google Sheet that's available from the project page of the Webform module, and it's our ongoing audit of actionable items, reviewing how the keyboard shortcuts are working. Is it navigable? How the tab key's working? And we make little notes. We might point to core issues, and we're just keeping track, trying to get a high level of compliance with accessibility issues. Moving to privacy. Well, the Webform module provides tools to protect collected data. And there's really three things to think about. You can limit what data is being captured. The data stored in Drupal can be encrypted. And Drupal doesn't have to be the repository for the data. Data doesn't have to be stored in Drupal. You can send it somewhere else, and it just hits the server and moves on to your internal environment, which is a lot more secure. One of the challenges with Drupal, it is usually externally facing, so you're collecting people's data on an external site outside your DMZ. So this is just a screenshot of submission privacy settings where you can kind of disable tracking of IP addresses or force all submissions to be confidential. And it's a screenshot of the Webform Encrypt module project page, which you can install to encrypt the data being stored, and the remote post handler. And this allows you to push data to your CRM or any third-party service. Just takes the data coming in and moves it over. I'm going to show you how to disable the results and do the remote posts. I'm going to jump back over. We'll keep using this contact form, and we're going to jump over to settings. And there's a lot of settings, and you should walk through them. And I wanted to just do this to be like, okay, here you can disable the settings. You can, archive, you can change it to a template, but for right now we just want to disable saving of submissions. We're going to hit save. Now for the remote posts and emails, those are considered handlers. They handle a submission. And we go over here, and we're going to see those two emails that were generated, and we're going to add a handler, remote post. I'm going to scroll down here. I'm going to grab this example URL. This usually could be Salesforce, an endpoint in Salesforce. You can see what data is being posted by default. It's just the form. I'm going to go to the Advanced tab and turn on debugging so that we can see what's happening. You can do that also for the emails, but for now we'll just focus on the remote post handler. I'm going to go over to test. I'm going to hit send and give it a second. And we get an error, which is totally fine. I pasted in a URL that is not an endpoint. It's broken. But what the debug handler shows you is, here's the data going out, here's the response, it wasn't found, 404. If you get another type of error, you'll be able to see it. And it shows you exactly what's going through the body, everything that's going on. So it makes it easy to kind of set these up and debug them as you're building them out. I'm going to click back. I'm going to move ahead. So let's talk about security. The Webform module provides permissions and rules to manage access to collected data. It's very important, you can put authentication around your web forms and require users to be authenticated, and that uses Drupal authentication, which is totally extendable. So out of the box, you can get, there's the passwords are encrypted properly, but you can get LDAP integration, single sign-on integration, Facebook integration, whatever you need for your site. With the Webform module, we provide fine-grained access rules, these controls that you can decide who can edit what submission or create submissions for what form, what roles. even down to an element level, who can access what element. So you could say doctors can only see this element. And finally, there's the ability to log transactions. Drupal logs a lot of things, but the Webform module has a submission log module, which will permanently store every single transaction that happens on a web form. Every time someone saves a submission, sends a submission, helps you audit things and know what's going on. And with permissions, I actually am calling out 3 huge permissions that are important, because I did give you a hint that it's really powerful. You can edit the source code behind a form, and there's permissions to grant people that ability, because we don't want everyone editing the source behind a form. And the 3 that are highlighted is also Twig, and you can inject custom CSS and JavaScript. Now the access controls, I'm just giving you a hint where you can go into each one of these permissions and say by role, user, or even another permission, who can view any submissions, update any submissions, even view their own submissions, purge. You can get full access, decide who can do what. And then the submission log, this is just a little preview of it where it's just showing, like, this is actually the same contact form showing you the emails going out, where it's tracking them and saying, hey, here's the email, here's where it was sent. And I just want to show you configuring logging. I'm not going to go too high up, because we were talking about settings, and now we're going up to configuration. And configuration, this is the global configuration for the entire site, where you can go in and change all the defaults. And it's good kind of to walk through just the breakdown: forms, elements, options, images, submissions. We're talking about submission logging. Here, under behaviors, I have it on by default. Log all submission events for all web forms. So any web form, it'll automatically log that data. Just kind of give you this, like, here's this ability to configure any aspect of all your web forms. So let's start talking about audiences. There are 3 primary audiences for healthcare. It's just my experience with working for a hospital website. You have the clinical side, which is patients, caregivers, and doctors. Then you have research. You have researchers, investigators doing clinical trials. And you also have doctors, and education, which is students, fellows. And I included doctors in all 3 because my experience has been doctors are part of the whole process of a healthcare institution. And these are just primaries, and this is going to help us walk through some form functionality that would address each one of these audiences. I'll admit we're missing donors, which is a secondary but a really important audience for most institutions. But let's start with clinical forms. Well, the most important form for a medical institution is the online appointment form. And I've done a lot of these over the years for Sloan Kettering, and I'm just going to throw out some tips. Only collect required information. Try to keep those forms as simple as possible. Use conditional logic to properly target your audience. If someone says they're a caregiver, you show them the right field. If they say they're a patient, you don't have to. You can maybe simplify the form. Also, just provide useful messages and warning as someone's filling out a form. And a nice functionality is you can pre-populate forms with key information. The example would be if someone's coming from the pediatric section of the site and they go to the appointment form, you could pre-fill out that they're interested in pediatric cancers, or limit what they're going to see. And some useful features in the Webform module, and a lot of these are elements, is like there's containers and dividers that you can use for grouping. You can add messages, warnings, information. Each element can have descriptions that can be displayed as plain text, tooltips, or even more slide outs. And then conditional logic is an amazing feature where you can ask a question and then only show the relevant field. And you can pre-populate elements using URL parameters. And reusable options is a tricky one for people to get, but it's the idea that you might have a drop-down menu and say, well, tell us your disease. And you can create a global set of reusable disease options so that whenever you build a form that needs diseases, someone could just say, I'm interested in putting diseases in this drop-down menu. It makes your life a lot easier. Just giving you, here's some dividers. The messages, we're going with the standard messages: info, status, warning, and error. Descriptions, just giving you kind of a screenshot of some examples where there's the tooltip, there's the more slide out at the bottom, and just a plain text description. And this is just conditional logic. This is one element in a job application where we're saying whether it's visible, required, or even enabled. And this is reusable options. These are default reusable options that ship with the Webform module. You're seeing a list of days, months, time zones, even education. You can delete these, you can augment them and edit them yourselves, or you can add new ones. And I'm going to show you MSK's appointment form and just kind of walk through how they're leveraging some of these features. You're going to go to appointments. First off, they have conditional logic, and they have the most common one, appointments for new patients first, and the conditionals will open up, and then you can decide if you're adult, ped. And one nice thing is if you stay to the left, it actually is the most common, simple way to fill out a form. And I'll backtrack in a second. This is a list of reusable options of their cancers that are available. If I go to bladder, you get some more questions, and we ask, think about it, we're asking really key questions here. New patient, current patient, referring a patient. And then we get to this big one, are you the patient? If you say no, it's going to ask for your contact information because you're the caregiver. If you say yes, that goes away and the form gets a lot simpler. And then, so that's conditional logic and reusable options. And then with the pre-population, by the way, for current patients, just want to show you, this is just messaging. This is just thinking it out. And these are just links. These are, here's a message. If you're a current patient, go to my MSK or the doctor search. But if we go back here and do international, it's going to redirect to an international form that's translated into multiple languages. And if we look at the URL, we've passed appointment type equals new because we know that about the patient. And we've made the form a little simpler by pre-populating. If I take it out and load the form, it's going to start off asking that question. We don't have to ask that question because we know it when they're coming in. We've saved them a single step, made it easier, made it less likely that referring a patient is massive because we're asking doctors to submit a lot of data. Hope that gives you kind of a good starting point on how to think about building out appointment forms. I'm going to keep going. So let's talk about research forms. And Webforms can collect a massive amount of data. I'm not going to get into the architecture details about that, but just want to emphasize that you can build multi-step forms with conditional logic on those pages. There's something we can do, composite elements, which is a group of elements working together to collect data, like an address. And then if you're collecting massive amounts of data, you might want to let your users save drafts as they're going through each step. It'll just save their information. Won't create a final record, but they won't lose it. You can even auto fill out a form. If you have people filling out forms multiple times, you can auto fill it out with their previous information. And there's even tools to just data loss prevention, little JavaScript code that just makes sure they don't exit the form and lose their data. And this is just a screenshot of a multi-step form, a wizard. And this is a screenshot of a composite element, just an address element, where we can collect all that data in one place. And in form settings and behaviors, this is just, I'm not going to show you this one, but there's a little checkbox. Warn users about unsaved changes. If you check that off and they exit the form before clicking submit, it prompts them and protects their data. And under submission settings, you can say save a draft. You can even have drafts for anonymous users just to protect their data in case something happens and they hit reload. They'll come back and it'll be filled out. So I like to show you composites and multi-steps because they're a really useful feature. I'm going to do a feedback form, and I'm going to do it a little quick, but I think you'll be able to follow along. So if I say feedback, I'm going to do a feedback form. Not going to do much else, create a feedback form. I'm going to add your information as a page. And hit save, sorry. Now, show all comms, hit add element. I'm going to go to the address composite. I'm going to do basic well, let's do contact because that'll even make it easier. Do contact. And what you're going to see, I'm going to say, your information. And they're going to enter their name. You can say whether it's required. I'm actually not going to check anything off, but you can see the breadth of this, and you have control over all the little labels that are being displayed. I'm going to hit save. We've created, let's just call it contact and keep the title as your information. Now we're going to add another page, your feedback. And here, you're going to go here, text area, and say your comments. I'm going to change it to be just a simple comments key. I'm just not doing any of these defaults. You need to go through them. So we've created a multi-step form with a composite. And we can even, you know what, I want to show you drafts because I think it just makes people feel more comfortable to knowing it's there. This is a nice widget where you can collapse everything, and then it just shows you the grouping. We go down to drafts, turn it on for all users, allow users to save multiple, save when they're paging through. You can customize all the messages. Just going to turn it on, and I'm going to pre-populate it, and you get this 3-part form with a save draft. And what's really nice is you could see I created one simple element, and it just created all these other elements at once, and you can build your own custom elements. So for hospitals, I do recommend it. It's like if you want to build a patient profile element, you should, and collect specific data for your enterprise record management system. I forget the abbreviation of that, I'm sorry. Let's just walk through it. Hit next page, and you could hit submit and get a confirmation. Previews are also supported. I didn't show you that setting, but let's keep going. So education forms. Webforms can be used to build robust applications. So it gets to be more complex than just a simple form. You can build systems. And building applications, like, the key thing to understand is submissions are tracked where they're coming from. So when I hit submit on an event with a web form attached, it will track that event. And in forms, entity references are fully supported. Entity references is a way to refer to other pieces of information on your site. So you could have a form that you could say, I'd like to reach out to this user, and that's a reference to the user, and you can add that to your form. And it's important, users can manage their previous submissions, so when they fill out a form, they can go in and look at it in the UI and see what they filled out. And that's all permission controlled, it's not by default. And then there's demos and examples that show you what's possible, and templates provide starting points. So this is submission tracking. This is an event registration form. It's been submitted from 3 different events, and we're tracking which events people are registering to. And these are user submissions. You just go over to the user profile. I happen to be as a webmaster and showing all the tests that I just did, and showing you can click through and review them, and if I had permission, I could edit them. And then in the module install page, just to show you a hint of, there's 3 demos: an application evaluation system, which you can do college level applications and have those evaluated online. Event registration system is events where people can register for them. And then there's a regional contact system. That's a tricky one, but that gets into very complex multi-user use cases of managing forms, where hundreds of users can be grouped together to manage certain sets of forms. With the examples, they're worth turning on because they'll just show you examples of every element, examples of a composite element. And they even help developers get started in creating those custom elements. And it's just an event registration system with a form opening and a dialog. I'm going to just demo it to you because I think it's good to see things in action. So if I go to the home page, let's use this. So I've got 3 events. I'm going to click through on my event. Here it is. I'm going to hit submit. I'm going to fill it out. I'm going to hit register. I'm going to go back to the form. And I'm on Webform node, so I've only registered for this event. And it tracks just this registration for this event. And this makes forms completely reusable. You create one registration form and you attach it to multiple events. And there's a demo, and I'm even at DrupalCon in the advanced web form presentation. I'm going to walk through how to build this from scratch. So the big takeaway from this presentation should be Webforms can just collect any type of data. I mean, I want to emphasize, I think you're starting to see you could build any type of form, and with that, any type of data, and put it anywhere. So for more information, you can connect with me on my blog, on Drupal.org, or Twitter. With the Webform module, there's a lot of documentations, many screencasts. I think we're up to 40 different screencasts that you can look at. Drupal answers on Stack Exchange. People are asking questions and getting help in the Webform module. And if you run into an issue, you can go into the Webform issue queue and create a ticket. And I want to bring up, well, Webform module has an open collective, and I will read this slide because people don't know what open collective is. So, well, get involved with the Drupal project and also consider helping to financially support the Webform module by becoming a backer, or by making a one-time contribution to say thanks by joining the Webform module's open collective. And what open collective is it's a transparent way for us to collect forms to make our open source code more sustainable. And why you should support the Webform module, what we're doing with these funds. Well, one, we have a new logo that we're working on for the Webform module to help with marketing. It's just a global goal of just like get more people using the module, then they'll help supporting it. And with security fixes, we want to start providing a $50 thank you to anyone who finds a security issue. That's on top of Drupal's bounties for security issues. And with these training and presentation to try to offset some travel costs. With accessibility, I would like to get a professional accessibility review. People are talking about maybe improving support using Open Collective and providing priority support if people want to make a donation. And just experimenting, more to come, trying to make the Webform module more sustainable so that it can keep growing. And learn more about me at jrockwitz.com, and thanks for watching.